Matt Smith, and I'm here to talk about my movie theaters today. So I had purchased a theater in Hot Springs a few years ago, remodeled that theater, put in stadium seating, luxury leather electric recliners with tables and reserved seating like the seats you see here. Dolby Digital Sound 7.1, big screens, new parking lot. Did that in Hot Springs a few years ago, and the Hot Springs customers really responded well. Came to the theater, watched movies with us. We're very happy with what we did there, and there's been such a wonderful ease of doing business in Hot Springs. Been a great town to do business in. Applied for an alcohol permit there, and the mayor and everyone was behind that. We got our permit very quickly. Of course, we serve over 40 different beers, 20 different wines. We have a full food menu. That's at the Hot Springs 8 VIP Cinema. It's at 351 Lake Hamilton Drive. So we've been there for several years now, and the response has been just absolutely wonderful. It's just great showing movies in Hot Springs. So when the other theater in Hot Springs closed, it wasn't AMC. There was an opportunity there, so I seized on that opportunity, and now I have the 8 screen and the 10 screen in Hot Springs, which will open May 26th. So I'll have 18 screens there and really can offer a full variety of motion pictures. The 2 theaters will not have the same movies. They'll have different movies. So we'll have a vast variety of films to play there in Hot Springs. We'll, at the 8 screen, Hot Springs 8 VIP, stadium seating, recliners, all that. We'll have your standard first run Hollywood major motion pictures all the time, 365 days a year. At the 10 screen, we'll have some of those, but we'll also have some cool independent art, foreign, and documentary films playing at the 10 screen, because now I'll have screens to do that, which we weren't able to do in the past and which the city of Hot Springs never got before. We want to do a variety of films. Here at Riverdale, we'll open 3, 4 Hollywood releases every week. And so we're pushing 150 plus different titles regularly through this theater. But in addition to that, we run Fathom events, which is 2 to 3 more screenings and special showings a month for us, which is an additional 36 titles. We have a film series with Arkansas Times, and it is a very artistic, off the beaten path, eccentric in a way film series that we do with the Arkansas Times and Film Quotes Film. They select the movies. That's once a month. That's another dozen films we play here as a variety. And then we have a running classic film series with Salem Media, The Dave Ellswick Show, The Answer, 101.1 FM. And those are your standard, just kind of straight ahead. Those films are in the canon of a classic movie. Anyone would define them as a classic. For example, we'll show Jaws this summer. We'll show E.T. this summer. And so that's another dozen films. So you're looking at 200 plus different film options at Riverdale 10 in a given year. This is another thing that's wonderful about Hot Springs, and I think something that gives us a unique perspective and separates what we do from the mega chains. You've got the mega multinational corporations. They've got 10,000 screens and 750 locations, and they're showing movies from Honolulu to Houston to Bahrain to Moscow to Tokyo. When you're that big, and don't get me wrong, those massive big corporations, they do big city well. They've got palaces in New York and Chicago and London and Berlin and Los Angeles and Houston. They're just wonderful palaces of motion pictures. They're wonderful. But when those guys consider Little Rock, a town the size of Little Rock, a D market, can you imagine how they look at even smaller towns? It's worked very well for me to just take the emphasis on the customer and make the small town movie-going experience very important. And so, when it's time to put in, new sound, we put in the new sound. When it's time to put in new seats, we put in the new seats. When it's time for a new popcorn popper, we do that. We're paying attention. And I think the huge companies struggle with that because they are just so large, and they've got to make that investment. And this seat and this table and the projector upstairs and the sound system, they cost the same. They cost the same if you're installing them in Bahrain, Boston, or Batesville. If you're installing them in Houston, Honolulu, or Hot Springs, right, they cost the same. Searcy or San Francisco or Seattle, same cost. And I understand why they emphasize those huge cities. The population is there, and they've got a 30-screen theater there, and I get that. But I'm investing in the small towns, and the response has been there. And we're trying to take care of our local customers, and very happy to do that. Look at Conway, for example, and look back to the 80s or look back to the 70s. You had Conway, Arkansas, and Conway, Arkansas had 12 screens, 2 6-screen movie theaters. And over time, the ownership of those 2 6-screen movie theaters changed as one multinational corporation bought another one, or one went bankrupt and somebody assumed their assets, or whatever the case may be. But go back into the 70s and 80s in Conway had 12 screens. Conway had 12 screens all the way through the 80s. Conway had 12 screens all the way through the 90s. Conway had 12 screens all the way through the 2000s. 12 screens. 2 different operations, but a total of 12 screens. Now in Conway, Arkansas, there's 12 screens. That's the way it is. It's always been that way, right? Every town that doesn't have a movie theater wants one. Every town that has a movie theater wants a new one, okay? But the reality is, no matter how many screens are out there, and no matter how many movies you release, Saturday night only comes around once a week, and there's only so many people going to the movie. That really can't change. Streaming is not killing cinema. And, this will sound crazy, all right, to people outside the industry, but in a lot of ways, this whole new dynamic is something that I can get behind. What I like, and what we learned, and it was a hard lesson for some people. Those people at Warner Brothers that lost $5 billion in a year and all lost their jobs and got Warner Brothers spun off to a different corporate conglomerate, they figured out that they didn't need to make movies and put them on TV. And it was a tough lesson. I mean, just getting gutted and bleeding out $5 billion, it was a tough lesson. But I think they learned their lesson. And business understands that. You have to generate money from those movies, or they can't put money into it. Now we're willing to take more of a risk because we now have the opportunity to earn money at the theater, then do the premium on demands. Then somebody's still going to buy a DVD somewhere, and then we're going to hit streamers, whatever that is. And so more movies are getting made. We're taking risks on things. I like that. I mean, you think about like Deadpool, an R-rated superhero movie. That was a thing that nobody would have taken a risk on in the past. Or you look at a goofball movie like Cocaine Bear, right? Just something as goofy as that, You got to put money into this, and this is time and effort and millions of dollars. So in a way, having these different avenues of revenue is helping us on the theatrical side. I don't think we can imagine, the size of what a screen could be and how wonderfully sharp and beautiful the image would be. Because, as you look back and you had 35 millimeter film, or you had a 70 millimeter film, and you're trying to have a gigantic screen, and you're putting a bulb in there to run that 35 millimeter film, you're limited. You're limited on what you can do. And now, I've got some projectors that are 4K, and they have a 6,500 watt bulb, and they're water cooled. And so the brightness and the beauty of that image on that big screen is incredible. Now, in 50 years, what can we do with that technology? What will they be able to do? Or if you look back at history and you look at the 3D experience that maybe James Cameron gave us with the little plastic, the paper glasses for like Piranha in 3D. Piranha was his first movie or whatever, right? And so you slip that on and it's in chromachrome, whatever that was, right? Piranha 3D, whatever that was, right? And then you look at Avatar at Christmas in 3D. And it's almost sacrilegious to call Avatar this Christmas in 3D compared to, right? Historically, is that even the same thing? Really? No. And so you're one of the blue people, and you're immersed in the planet when you slide those 3D glasses on for that new Avatar. So what will 3D be as we go forward in the future? What will we have out there? What kind of screen? Will there be holograms? I mean, how will the image hit the screen? So no, that technology is there. It's going to continue to grow. Cinemas are still going to be around because you're never going to have that experience at home. Now, what technical advances will we have? What will become about to create that experience? I have no idea. That's the multi-billion-dollar question. But it's coming, and it's going to be extraordinary, and you're not going to be able to replicate that at home. Popcorn. You got to do popcorn. I don't know. It's just something about it. And, I always tell my employees, you got to pop it up when they're coming in, right? So, you want to hear it popping, see it popping. You want to smell it. You want it coming out of the kettle. There's just something about movie theater popcorn when it falls right out of that kettle. It's fluffy. It's buttery. Um, you know, Whoever said popcorn needs to be air popped, you need to knock them out, okay? Something's wrong with that person, okay? You want that popcorn out of that kettle, and you want it popped with coconut oil. And to just hear it, see it, smell it, and just have it fall out, and it's right there, and it's just fresh, nothing better. Just melts in your mouth perfect. Can't beat that. Hands down.